General Hospital spoilers for Monday, May 19th reveal that Joe's future is entering a turbulent and shocking transitional phase, as secrets long buried beneath the dust of time begin to surface. Exposed under the unforgiving light of the present. The confirmation of Joe's true identity, as the son of Dante and Lulu, is not just a personal revelation but has quickly escalated into a turning point that directly affects the dynamics of family relations, underground politics, and the emotions of nearly everyone connected to Port Charles. Brad's quiet departure, structural changes within Selena's network, and the increasingly complex calculations of Drew and Willow, all these are unfolding amid chaos. Making Gio, a young man with a unique lineage and rare talent, the unexpected center of an underground storm whose dangers no one could have predicted. The most terrifying part isn't that Gio now knows he is Dante and Lulu's son, but that Lulu, who once disappeared from his life completely, has now suddenly returned with a fierce desire to reclaim her role as his mother, without any regard for the emotional damage her absence caused. Lulu hasn't returned with gentleness, nor with repentance or a wish to heal, but rather as someone carrying orders, ideals, and an imposed plan, one in which Gio is not allowed to reject the role of being her son, regardless of how he was raised, who he has loved, who he has trusted, and where he has placed his heart. This is why Gio begins to fracture. Everything that once made him feel safe, Brooke Lynn's embrace, Olivia's silent support, and Dante's quiet but unwavering trust, now feels fragile and distant. He's no longer sure if the love he receives is genuine, or if it has been tainted by pity and obligation. He doesn't even know which voice is his own and which are the expectations of others. Lulu, with her love that is both passionate and controlling, has pulled Gio into an emotional maze where he cannot breathe, cannot make his own life decisions, and yet cannot find the strength to resist the woman who gave birth to him. In this inner conflict, a new form of obsession begins to emerge. Gio, who once found himself through music, through his instrument, and through quiet backstage performances, no longer finds music to be a refuge. Every time he plays, he thinks of Brooke Lynn, who had been by his side like a sister, a friend, and eventually, someone he quietly fell in love with. But now, he can no longer reach out to Brooke Lynn as before, cannot tell her that he needs her, because Lulu is ever present, like an invisible yet suffocating wall. And that makes each note he plays, instead of healing, feel like a blade cutting into his heart, reminding him that he is slowly losing himself. Selena, who had been watching Gio from a distance with plans to make him her heir in her world, also begins to feel uneasy. She knows that someone like Gio, if manipulated by a figure as emotionally unresolved as Lulu, could be pushed into a life of indecision, belonging nowhere, easily exploited by ambitious individuals. The lack of clear direction, combined with the unspoken pull of his heritage, makes Gio the ideal target for powers seeking a new symbol to reshape influence in Port Charles. This makes Selena, who is highly sensitive to shifts in power, begin to worry that if she cannot control Gio, her own future may also be at risk. Dante, in his effort to be a true father, feels increasingly powerless as he watches his son slip further away from the orbit of love. He tries to get closer, tries to listen, but Lulu's forceful return into Joe's life makes all his efforts feel late and feeble. Olivia, who once supported Brooke Lynn and hoped to help Gio find himself again, now realizes this is no longer a personal matter, it's a battle over identity, emotional control, and who gets the final say in Joe's life. And amidst all this pressure, Gio is quietly disappearing. Not from Port Charles, but within his own soul. He grows weary of the tug-of-war, of everyone thinking they know what's best for him, while no one actually asks what he wants, who he wants to love, where he wants to be, who he wants to become. Those questions are buried under unspoken commands from Lulu, quiet expectations from Dante, regret from Brooke Lynn, and the calculations of other forces. And if this continues, sooner or later, Gio will lose the most precious thing he has, not his identity or heritage, but himself. Joe's future, therefore, is not just a personal story. It's a symbol of a generation shaped by outdated forces, by people who speak the language of love but act through control. And if no one steps forward to help Gio reclaim his voice, then one day, Port Charles will no longer see a young, emotional artist on stage, but a lost boy, standing amidst applause that doesn't belong to him, under stage lights shining on a name he no longer recognizes. Brooke Lynn is also entering an entirely new phase of her life, no longer a woman sidelined by family power plays, no longer someone quietly enduring the schemes of the Quartermaines, but a woman taking control, starting a new chapter where she no longer avoids conflict or hesitates, but faces all consequences head-on. This internal transformation didn't arise from a single moment, but from a buildup of prolonged pain, from watching Gio be torn apart by Lulu. From the helplessness of seeing those she loves look at her no longer with trust, but with fear, avoidance, and even suspicion. This has triggered a psychological shift in Brooke Lynn, a transformation from being controlled to setting the rules. She no longer endures, no longer tries to please everyone, but is now building sharp boundaries between herself and all those who once dismissed her voice. The control Brooke Lynn is asserting isn't just over her environment, it's over her heart, which has been scarred by loss, betrayal, and ambiguity in relationships she once held dear. This time, she won't allow herself to be weak. She won't let emotions lead the way. She's now deciding who gets to stay, who must go, with no explanations, no apologies. However, what makes this change dangerously unique is how it's slowly morphing into a form of obsession. Brooke Lynn doesn't just want to protect Gio, she wants to control every relationship he has. She watches every meeting between Gio and Lulu with guarded eyes, a mix of fear and anger. She silently interferes in Joe's personal choices, where he goes, who he meets, who he plays music with, even who he shares his thoughts with. To Brooke Lynn, this is love, this is protection. But to outsiders, it is excessive control, a dangerous form of attachment that could cost Gio his sense of self. A new trait of Brooke Lynn, one she never displayed before, is her ability to use the Quartermaine family's covert power to exert influence. She begins to leverage Ned's clout, use connections with Diane, and even brings Tracy back into the game. She doesn't hesitate to trade favors, set unspoken conditions, or lightly threaten those she believes are harming Gio, even Lulu. This makes Brooke Lynn a force Port Charles can no longer underestimate. She's no longer just a failed singer or a desperate granddaughter, she's becoming a new power player. Not out of personal ambition, but because she believes she's the only one who can keep Gio from falling into the depths of emotional manipulation and conflict. But it's exactly at this point that Brooke Lynn begins to lose direction. Her control becomes a trap, not just for Gio, but for herself. She can no longer distinguish between love and possession, between protection and manipulation. She starts pushing away those who once supported her, grows cold toward Olivia, tense with Dante, and even begins to doubt the sincerity of Ned's advice. Brooke Lynn is locking herself in a fortress built on righteous motives, but reinforced by a deep fear of losing again, losing Gio, love, and her one chance to prove that she can hold on to someone with her heart, not through silent sacrifice. The storm brewing inside Brooke Lynn is no longer a distant threat. Every decision she makes now carries unpredictable consequences. And if no one is close enough to help her stop, to pull her back from this increasingly harsh path, the day will come when Brooke Lynn is no longer Joe's savior, but the very reason he has to walk away. When love is no longer a place of refuge, but becomes a space of surveillance, control, and suffocation, then all that's left is pain, and Brooke Lynn, if she's not careful, will be the first to suffer. Her story of control, if left unchecked, will not only be her own tragedy, but a nightmare engulfing everyone she tried to protect with silent, misguided love. Emma is standing in the eye of a storm unlike any she has ever experienced, not because of a broken relationship, not due to a typical personal conflict, but because of a brutal, calculated act that destroyed a core part of the future she had quietly built for years. Her thesis, the product of countless days and nights of research, labor, and a deep desire to prove her intellectual worth, has been deliberately, illegally, and maliciously altered. Emma isn't just angry. She is furious to the point that every moral principle she once firmly held is now shaking at its very roots. To Emma, this is not just a tampered document. It's a direct violation of her dreams. Ideals, honor, and the identity she had tirelessly shaped throughout her youth. This destructive alteration was not the result of a technical error. It was the outcome of a deliberate and cunning setup, leaving Emma unable to trust those around her, unsure who is truly on her side. Or who betrayed her by interfering in the work she poured her heart and soul into. What enrages her even more is that those responsible are trying to cover it up, downplaying its impact. Labeling it a minor internal issue, rather than recognizing it for what it is, a blatant attack on a young person's career and spirit. Emma's anger is no longer visible rage. It has become a smoldering, intense force burning inside her, pushing her to the edge of extreme decisions. She no longer believes in the system. She no longer trusts the review process. Academic integrity, or the people who once patted her on the back, encouraging her to move forward. When the foundation of trust is shattered, every subsequent action becomes a seed of madness. Emma starts doubting everything. Every email, every meeting, every look could be hiding a plot to crush her. And out of that paranoia, a new, explosive shift begins. Emma doesn't back down. She begins digging deeper, investigating, tracing every clue to find out who was behind the document alteration. She collects data, captures records. Cross-checks every draft against the final version, working alone like a detective hunting truth, not for recognition, but for justice. She no longer just wants her original thesis restored. She wants the traitor exposed. She wants to tear down every power structure that enabled and protected this manipulation. And in this journey, Emma starts uncovering suspicious links. Perhaps it was a professor who saw her as a threat to their own reputation. Maybe a jealous peer resented her rapid progress and the praise she received. Or worse. It could be a higher-level scheme, where theses like hers are exploited to cover up misconduct, swap research topics, or legitimize shady funding plans. If that's true, then Emma isn't just a victim. She holds the key to unraveling an entire system that seemed untouchable. Her fury is no longer personal, it becomes a flame demanding justice. And from that, a new kind of obsession begins to spread. Emma loses sleep. She lives in a state of constant alert, keeps all her research data tightly guarded, and refuses contact with people she once considered allies. She is no longer the quiet girl with a laptop and a notebook. She has become an academic warrior, ready to explode if cornered. And that makes everything dangerous, because someone like Emma, when pushed too far, doesn't just fight back. She will rip off every mask, expose every lie, even if it means isolation, expulsion, or the destruction of her academic future. The madness Emma is experiencing is not a sign of losing control, it is the inevitable result of having the most sacred thing stolen. Her effort and intellect. And if the system doesn't quickly make amends, if it doesn't publicly apologize, restore her honor, and take responsibility, then Port Charles will witness one of the biggest academic scandals in its history, where a student becomes the force that topples the entire structure. Fueled by her righteous rage, Emma, once a victim, will become a symbol of resistance. And from there, the obsession won't be hers alone, it will spread to all who once believed they could quietly swap out someone else's future without consequences. Sonny is sinking into a quiet obsession he can't quite define, not one triggered by his criminal world, not by lifelong enemies, nor by any external threat, but by something far more intimate, familiar, and ultimately, his greatest vulnerability, his family. More specifically, it is the unfolding story of Dante, the son Sonny spent years trying to make amends with after so much time lost. But now, as Dante continues to walk a path increasingly divergent from Sonny's, as the values Sonny once instilled are being replaced by new principles and choices he doesn't agree with, Sonny finds himself spiraling into doubt, questioning his place in the lives of those he loves most. Dante is no longer the man who upheld a careful balance between justice and family. He is being drawn into something more complex, as the truth about Gio slowly comes to light and his relationship with Lulu is placed under the moral and emotional microscope. Sonny, who once believed he knew his son to the core, now watches from a distance as Dante grows more distant, more reserved, and, most notably, starts making decisions without seeking his father's input. That shift, however small, is enough to make Sonny feel like his emotional influence is being drained day by day. And that is the seed of something dangerous. Sonny isn't someone who lets others take control, and he certainly won't accept being pushed out of family decisions. Yet he must face the truth, that while he tries to control everything through power, experience, and his vast network, Dante is forging his own path. One where behaviors Sonny sees as necessary, like using force to protect, are no longer acceptable to his son. In fact, Dante may soon directly oppose Sonny if one of Sonny's secrets or connections threatens Gio, Lulu, or anyone Dante is trying to protect. This unspoken fracture is what sends Sonny into crisis. He is torn between two realities. One is the man who was once the most feared figure in Port Charles, unafraid of blood, never backing down from a fight, always on top of his game. The other is a father on the brink of losing the last thread of connection to a son who once looked up to him with deep respect. Sonny knows that if he doesn't act soon, if he continues to hover on the sidelines, the day will come when Dante won't look back. So, in a desperate attempt to hold on to what remains, Sonny begins to take action. He assigns people to monitor those interacting with Gio, even has Lulu investigated, not because he doesn't trust her, but because he can't bear the thought that part of Dante's heart is under the influence of a woman Sonny has always seen as unpredictable. He reaches out to Olivia, probing for signs of change in Dante's mindset, but instead of support, he is met with a warning, that if he keeps interfering, Sonny will be the one to drive Dante away forever. And so, Sonny falls into a brutal tug-of-war, between holding on through control, or letting go in order to preserve love. But the instincts of a survivor and power broker like Sonny don't allow him to release control. He starts making decisions even he isn't sure are right, reaching out to those who influence Dante. Even through shadowy means, just to make sure that if things fall apart, he'll be the one who saw it coming. Yet Sonny's deepening interference begins to ignite a new set of problems. Dante starts to feel watched, controlled, and doubted, by the very father he's been trying to protect. Gio, unaware of the full extent of their blood tie, begins to sense the tension in the looks exchanged between his grandfather and father. And Lulu, who is desperately trying to prove that she's changed and wants her family back, is once again pushed into direct conflict with Sonny. Knowing full well that one wrong move and Sonny will destroy everything she's trying to rebuild. A new disaster is thus taking shape, not from an external threat, but from within the Corinthos family itself. Sonny, despite his power and experience, can no longer control the one force that is slowly eroding his reason, the fear of losing his son, losing trust, and losing the image of a great father in the eyes of those he loves most. And if he doesn't step back in time, the disaster won't just be a family argument, it will be a silent but brutal war between generations, between old and new values. Between a father who can't let go and a son learning to walk forward without asking for permission. Carly is entering a new phase in her life, a time when she is no longer a woman chasing after the turmoil caused by others, but the central figure in control of an evolving chain of events that is Port Charles. After years of emotional struggles, family crises, and the intrigues of love and power, Carly has learned not just to survive but to dominate in the chaos. But this time, what she holds in her hands is not just emotions or personal relationships, but real control over the fate of her children, over the legal drama surrounding Wiley and Amelia, and more than that, over the forces that Carly is secretly monitoring and manipulating. Michael's return from Germany, weak but determined, does not reassure Carly. On the contrary, it only pushes her further in her plan to regain full custody of her two children. She knows Drew and Willow are hiding something. The sudden changes in testimony, the manipulation of evidence, and most of all the presence of names like Rick Lansing and Nina, all are pieces of the chaotic puzzle that Carly is quietly arranging into a deadly chess game. She is no longer the only responder, she is the initiator. And that control is bringing her to a level of power she has never had before. However, the power that Carly holds does not come with peace. It brings a series of new puzzles, solutions, additional agreements and direct threats to her position and reputation. Because once Carly begins to use information as a weapon, she also becomes a target for those who want to expose her past, from the secrets with Sonny to the illegal interference in projects related to her son. Every move she makes now is a gamble, win. And she can regain control. Lose, and she loses. In this state of extreme candor, Carly begins to reveal new traits, sharp, cold, and calculating as ever. She doesn't hold back the trust of those who were once close to her, from Diane to Olivia, even Sonny if need be. The phone calls, the files she collects, the advice she draws from old enemies like Ava, all are shaping a new Carly, a strategist who knows what she wants and knows how to get others to give it to her. Whether by soft means or subtle threats. The explosive events that are happening are not just in the looming custody battle, but also in the minds of those who once thought they knew Carly. By Carly now, she is no longer predictable. She moves quietly, but each move has a ripple effect. She knows how to create a small incident to set the stage for a big one. She can stay silent during a hearing, only to release a carefully edited transcript at the right moment that leaves her opponents unable to respond. And it's this that makes Drew, Willow, and even Diane, allied as they are, shudder at the way Carly is becoming a hidden force within the very system she was once brought outside of. Carly's new calculation isn't just about her actions. It's about how she manipulates others' emotions. She makes Willow feel guilty. Nina doubt herself. She makes Sonny, still tough, unable to be a backup when it comes to Wiley's future. It's all part of a larger plan that Carly is leading, a plan that's not just about custody, but about repositioning herself in a world she was once considered subservient to. This time, Carly is not behind anyone. It's a beautiful sight. And if anyone tries to stop them, they won't be confronting Wiley's ex-mother, but a woman who's lost enough, endured enough, and is now willing to burn everything down so she can lose nothing more. Port Charles is shaking, not because of an explosion, not because of a conflict, but because a woman named Carly is slowly reclaiming her rightful place, this time as the one controlling the entire board. And if she's not stopped, what's brewing will be more than legal trouble. It will be a seismic shift that will change the town's power structure forever.